And here we are. It is Car Con Carne, still being held in quarantine, still being held in captivity. I'm James Van Osel, and through the magic of technology, through the magic of Zoom, which is our new world, which is our new reality, I'm joined across the country by Ryan Immegart from the band TheLINE. Ryan is also the global head of marketing for Volcom, and that's the most interesting thing we'll learn up until this point. The global head of marketing for Volcom understands the value of podcasting, which makes me feel great. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I love podcasts, so happy to be here.
Did you do just over the past year, since you weren't going out and playing shows, you spent a lot of time just listening to stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the amount of time I spent in front of a screen increased dramatically, but I found moments of not doing emails and PowerPoints and things and trying to just enjoy the vast array of entertainment that's out there. And it's awesome. From podcasts to music to everything in between. It's like nothing but good stuff out there if you seek it out. A lot of bad stuff.
Exactly. So the line started in the 90s, soldiered on through the early 2000s, and then the line just went away. Did life get in the way there? What happened there?
Yeah, yeah, we formed in high school, like, back in the early 90s, and had was actually the first snowboarder for Volcom. So Volcom was founded in 91, and I had met the founders prior to them starting Volcom. Actually worked at a brand called Quicksilver, the main owner. And so he had sponsored me to snowboard for Quicksilver. And I grew up in Big Bear Lake, which is a small mountain town and outside of LA, a couple hours. And so snowboarding was just starting, and there was a lot of a lot of excitement around it, and a lot of people were coming up and experiencing it. So I was able to, I was just into it, and ended up kind of being at the right time and meeting the right place, right time kind of a thing. And anyway, was on this path of, I'm going to be a pro snowboarder, and this is my passion. And then as life happens, and I ended up getting injured a few times, and simultaneously was becoming really into just playing guitar, and that whole, like, the feeling I got snowboarding was very similar to the feeling I got for playing music with my friends. Like, it just made me feel alive. And so yeah, I think the point of putting the music, like, I basically had some photo incentive that the Volcom owed me for this, some snowboarding photos I had published. And next thing you know, I was like, hey, let's just take this money and put it into making a record for my band. And he was at the time, they were like, yeah, like, that sounds great, let's do it. And so we were completely naive and green, and we just started. We were really into, like, early, back in our time, my generation, but like, the bands like Bad Religion and NoFX, and that punk movement was very inspirational to us. And so we were just like, well, where do these bands record? And we're like, oh, West Beach, Hollywood. Okay, let's find a number there. And we were just cold calling, and eventually we linked up with Steve Kravac, who's a great producer, and did, like, some early Blink record and a few other, like, really iconic punk rock things that we were stoked on. And anyway, got in way over our head. Like, we were going to make a demo. I was like, yeah, we just did this demo. It was took us an afternoon. And anyway, a week into making an actual record at a real studio, we started really realizing, like, okay, this is a lot different than what we did at our buddy's little studio. but it was great. We got through it, and we started the label with that. And I mean, I guess the truncated version of the story is, like, from that moment, we put the first record out in 95. We then put another record out in 97. And kind of between those 2 points, I had a baby. And I had a child when I was 20, being a child, having a child. Yeah. And that was obviously a huge, moment in my life, changed a lot of things, but we were still we're gonna keep doing this because we could. And we had the support of Volcom. And eventually we put out a third record in, like, 99. And then in 2000, basically, like, early 2000s, I started signing bands, and I signed this band called CKY, which was obviously been successful, done a lot of things, and that got interest from some major labels. And yeah. MCA at the time, before they went under, were looking to do label deals. So we were able to basically did a label deal for Volcom Entertainment, which was the imprint under Volcom. And
now, when you say label deal, you mean distribute an indie label content through a major, or something a
well,
little bit more hands-on?
it was a bit more than that. They were basically saying, hey, look, we're going to, because they're just looking for artist development. They don't want to do any of the legwork. The major label was like, hey, we're going to give you guys X amount of money that you can use to go sign bands. You'll own the first record, and that at any point after that, if we think we want them, we will take them, and you will be left with whatever catalog you have, right? So I was just like, well, that's great. You're gonna, sure, give us money, develop the artist. We can, do real production, use real studios. This is gonna be awesome. Look down the road, of course, it's a shitty deal because the indie label ends up getting really doesn't kind of gets the short end of the stick, and so does the art. So
The
that
90s, the 90s are littered with stories like that.
Yeah, totally.
Up and down.
They had like perfected the way, I feel, to take advantage of the indie labels, and then at that point, they went under, and the music industry really started changing. But after that, we basically, that when MCA went out of business, we then got an offer from Warner Music through like a group of labels called East West, and so sort of in there, like we had put our last record out under the MCA like label deal, and that was 2002. And at that point, life was weighing down on myself and the band and everyone else. And I think we had put out 4 records. We felt we had a lot of great opportunities and met a lot of cool people and traveled the world, and absolutely no regrets, no complaints. But I needed to start kind of taking this label thing more serious, and I was, I felt fortunate to have that opportunity. So I really we just stopped. We didn't play anymore. Like we were like, everyone was having kids, and the story you hear. And so we took we just decided to kind of take a hiatus, and I was living and breathing music, so I was still getting that. I was like, I signed that band Pepper, who has gone on to do a lot of great things. And,
one of my favorite interviews was with on this podcast was with Isad of Pepper.
Oh yeah. Isad's like one of my really good friends. Signed those guys right around that same time under MCA, and they were a small band from Kona in Hawaii, and no one knew about him. And my friend who lived in Hawaii, he worked for Volcom, was like, you got to check out this band. They're going to be the next Sublime. They're this and that. And I at the time was like, yeah, cool. Like, let me check it out. And yeah, man, lo and behold. But same thing, like brought them over, signed them, put out their self-produced release, put them into the studio with Steve Kravac as well, who did the Kona Town, their first and still to this day their most successful record commercially. And and it was a really but at that time for Kona Town, we'd actually built a studio inside of Volcom. So the Volcom headquarters is in Costa Mesa, California. And
talk about your dream gig, really.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, it's like going to Disney every day. I mean, that's amazing.
It was cool. It was a good time in, I guess, the board sports kind of industry, or the youth culture industry. Like, there was a lot of brands coming up and a lot of growth happening across the whole industry. So, Volcom was in a great position to invest in those things and saw the value in what musicians and music culture could bring to a clothing brand. And I have a lot of admiration for them for doing that, because that really set me on my path even to this day. So it's really cool to look back on that. But anyway, yeah, after that we kept signing bands. We did, we moved to the MCA thing, and I got so consumed with work that playing in a band wasn't at the top of my list anymore. So
totally get it.
Yeah, had to evolve. But
life gets in the way. I want to apologize. First of all, we're talking to Ryan Immegart. If you're just joining us on Facebook Live, Ryan Immegart of TheLINE. I probably gave you the most Chicago pronunciation of your company imaginable. Volcom. Yeah, so you're over there at Volcom doing the snowboard thing, getting some powder. Volcom. Much more dignified to say it like that. Volcom.
Yeah.
It's gonna haunt me, Ryan. It's gonna haunt me.
Well, Don't let it haunt you too bad. It happens.
Thank you. Volcom. So throughout, I mean, you started this band in high school. It was you and Donald, the other guitarist slash vocalist. How do you
Mhm.
still get along to this day? I mean, it's so weird when I interact with people who I went to high school with. There's that familiarity and congeniality because it's like we've been through something pretty major together. But people just people drift apart. I mean, over the decades, it's incredible that not only you still have that relationship, but you can still kind of see eye to eye
Yeah.
musically.
I think it's like the whole like, we are a four piece. I think it's like the one in four, like the other two members of the band, even though, we went through multiple drummers. I've actually each record we did was with a different drummer. But
That's not
the
unusual. That's not
yeah,
unusual.
no, it's not. It's not. And there's a funny kind of ending to that point because up until that, as we kept putting out records, like it was almost like the kiss of death. We would make the record, we'd go tour on it, and then something would happen to the drummer, try to kill us, fucking fighting, whatever. Like there was, drama. And eventually, like, I could go on, but each story has its own moment of one drummer, literally tried to like stab us on the side of the road. The other drummer, we had to have security at the airport physically remove him from our vehicle because he wouldn't get off in the middle of the Warped Tour and escort him to like, basically like wasn't going to get off the vehicle. It was just a complete nightmare. And then that was like there was another band that I had signed called Bueno, which was an amazing band, and they had was a really good friend of ours, and so he was like, "Oh, I'll do it. Like, just give me some time, and I'll do it." And we gave him, the night ride from the venue to the next stop on Warped Tour, and we, ended up playing. He was a great drummer, so it was all good. But right after that, we went out with Snapcase and Strung Out and Rise Against, and we were just
What a moment.
yeah, we were yeah, it was crazy. And now, at this point with Donald, I guess out of the original members, he's still, best friend from high school, really good buddy. We don't have to stick in the van together all the time, so we don't get on each other's nerves. And
Right.
I actually have him. He actually works at Volcom for me, so it's a pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I love the path your life has taken. Staying on the Volcom Entertainment, the music you were involved with through the years, just for a second more. I always loved Valiant Thor, if for no other reason. And they're a good band, but every dude in the band has the last name of Thor, like the Ramones.
Yeah, totally.
I always thought that was very appealing.
Oh, yeah, Valiant himself, the singer, as he would go by sometimes. Yeah, all the Thoriers, the whole thing was like I had signed a band. I had signed a band called ASG out of Wilmington, North Carolina, and amazing band, super good. And they were really tapped into that kind of North Carolina, more like metal and rock scene. And they had, kind of through just their network had introduced us. It was cool because a lot of the bands I signed were all, friends of an existing band or friends of somebody that had, had a relationship with, and it just seemed to work. So,
Santi on the Facebook chat says Oracle is such a solid record. Nice to have the fans coming out tonight. That's very cool. Thank you, Santi, for checking in. I love that.
Yeah.
Also, you've worked with Riverboat Gamblers. For me, as a longtime Robin Hitchcock fan, that Soft Boys cover of I Want to Destroy You, the best.
Hey, of all the bands I've signed, I have a particularly soft spot for Riverboat Gamblers. I mean, they were like the band that I heard them and I was just I was just obsessed. I like wasn't going to take no for an answer. I mean, I was a stalker. It's like I got like I'm like, is this? I'd be the point where I'd be like, okay, I'm on the line of being obsessive and totally scaring these people away, but I just couldn't I couldn't stop. I had the vision and I'm like, I have to sign these guys. And it took a lot. It took a lot of courting.
Yeah, I've talked to so many bands through the years who've been courted with label deals and management situations. I think it is stuff like what you did that is the most effective, because you hear about label people, especially back in the 90s, they need to get that deal done or lose their job. I mean, they're throwing everything out there just to save their own ass, but it's the ones who are genuine, like, I am such a fan. I want to make this happen for you. I want to be part of this because that cuts through all the other crap.
I think that part of being in a band and putting records out and having that own, like, I guess, drive to make a living, not even be some huge rock star, just to like be able to make a living off of playing music was something that I think helped me relate to them in some way, like
For sure.
because we were still sort of active at the time, but it it helped, and I had just everything like I still have a really good friend who did all of our legal for the label, and he just so happened to also be the representation he represented Riverboat Gamblers. So you get into that, okay, we're doing the deal, and then it's like, well, who's going to do the deal, because this guy can't do it, and so it was like all incestual and like in like a cool way that like
right.
I don't know.
It's the cool kind of incest. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk about your band. Let's talk about the line. Back with Sour to Punker at the end of last year. These songs were by and large finished just over a year ago. Recorded live to tape.
Yeah. We we basically, like, if you go, I guess it was would have been 2018. We had gotten together for like this Volcom. It was like an internal party for a bunch of friends and family as we were closing down this one little like workshop we had. And so we'd always joked about wanting to like get back together for some like, last whatever, just to celebrate old times. And it finally happened, and it was fun. We played like 7 songs, and that was like June 2018. And then the next day my buddy calls me and was like, oh my God, you guys played, like, will you come play this for us? It's with Guttermouth, and it's going to be blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whoa, man, like that was, how long do we have to play? He's like, oh, like an hour. I'm like, whoa, no. I'm like, how much money you got? And he's like, what do you want? And so I threw out like a number that I was like, there's no way he's going to say yes to this thing. There's just fucking no way. This is like ridiculous. And and he said yes. So of course I was like, in that moment, then I was like, okay, now we have to, learn this hour set. But it was awesome. It was like, we fully it was just like riding a bike, as they say. Like,
Sure.
It turned on. We were loving it. We were having a great time. You don't have that feeling of like, I have to do this because this is my life. It's just like, hey, this is really fun. But the clutcher, I think, to the thing was that really happening is that my son, who's now 21, he's a fucking good drummer. And I was very proud and also excited to be able to play music with him. So it's
how cool is that? I mean, really.
So cool. It's so cool. And after going through different drummers on every record, finally being able to do it with my son, and the bass player who's playing bass is also my daughter's like really long time boyfriend. I mean, like going on like over 5 years. And she was the one that was born when I was 20, and I left for tour the next day after she was born. Like all these stories, like my son, when he was born, I was like under the stage, bolting the stage together at the Warped Tour in New Jersey, because we would set up the stage every day for the Volcom stage, and then play, and then drive all that night and do it again. And like, so we were working hard, I guess, at the time, but loved it. And so anyway, we put out an EP in 2018 called, or excuse me, I guess it was a year later, 2019, called The Mass Debate. It was 4 songs that we just kind of were inspired to write after getting back together. But we were like, kind of like, okay, well, it's not a full album, it's an EP. We need to like do a full record with this lineup to kind of break the curse. We got to keep going, and just, we were just having fun. But yeah, we were doing a lot of shows. We were touring a bunch. We just finished a short stint with Guttermouth again, who Donald, I don't know if you know, but Donald, the other guitar player, also was in Guttermouth for many, many years. And after we broke up the first time. So anyway, we have a lot of friends there, and we're playing tons of shows and having a good time. And I think this year we had a lot of stuff lined up. Like, we just got picked up by Landon at Covert Booking, and we were like, had a pretty stacked schedule, and we were like getting kind of stoked. And I'm like going, how do I juggle my my first priority of my day job? But anyway, with Sour to Punker, we obviously couldn't tour, just like everybody else, once everything happened last year. So we just started writing and trying to do things to keep us sane. and we did one live stream that was really fun, but it really, you know, there's just not enough of those. So we just were in our little space, just recording and kind of in our little like bubble of, my son, you know, lived with me at the time and the boyfriend was over all the time. And so really outside of us three, Donald was the only member that really wasn't kind of in our little bubble. So it was very kind of safe to do so. And yeah, we just were like, let's just do it. Because at the time prior to COVID kind of really clutching the world, Volcom had a studio that we would just have, even, you know, recently, where bands could just come in, record for free. They would keep the masters, they keep everything, and we would basically just ask them to let us use the music for licensing for our content.
Brilliant.
So it was a good deal for us and great for them, and so we were taking full advantage of that. The line was, and we were going in there as much as we could.
Absolutely.
And, you know, so that was great. But we finished. The studio has unfortunately gone away, at least temporarily, while we, you know, adjust our business like everybody. And so we actually, because of that, we went to the studio called Pot of Gold to finish the last track on Sour to Punker, which is my favorite track. It's called Harmony Do You Miss We? And it's a song that really, really, I mean, it was definitely inspired by what we were going through last year. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of how that one came out, and it's just it's a little bit different for us, but we went to that studio.
Wait, stop right. Let's keep talking about Harmony Do You Miss We?
Yeah.
COVID era composition. I love the line. Hope is a 4-letter word. I mean, that's talk about emblematic of the past 10
that's
months.
One of my favorite lines for sure. That song kind of came out of sitting in my living room, not leaving my house, like a lot of musicians, just playing and trying to find a escape from reality, and being inspired by, you know, the idea that, you know, a lot of the lyrics in the song kind of go back to like the feeling that, like, you know, what is harmony in this world? Like, how do you feel that harmonious kind of energy in your life? And when it's gone, how do you handle yourself? And what is the purpose of what we're going through as humans at this time? And I was just like looking at my kids, like literally every line in there is like, I'm scared for the kids. Like, I'm like sitting in my living room, you know, it's all very literal to me. But I don't know, a lot of the songs we definitely try to make them abstract, but enough so that I don't want it to be so obvious to somebody that it turns them off, you know, because I'm not just going to tell you what to think of how a song affects you emotionally.
That to me is the perfect transition into talking about Hawkeye, which is the first song on this. I like the lyrics here are kind of ambiguous. It could be about relationships. It could be about the state of the world. There's just enough of that gray that you can relate to it no matter how you're coming into that song.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, that's actually one of the songs that we had written kind of over time. Like, the original version of that was being, you know, toyed with over the years, and Donald really wrote a lot of that song, so I have to give him a lot of that credit. But it's one of, I mean, I think that sound and you know, because as much as we're a punk band and we come from that, we've always, to the Oracle record, we've always tried to be weird for weird's sake, almost.
Bless you. And I said that in the text I used for the post tonight for the Facebook Live. I said the best thing about the Line sound is it's their sound. You can find hints of stuff you love in everything they do, but the end result is uniquely theirs. Yeah, I can, you know, spot certain sounds or styles that I like, but you've carved your own niche. You built your own sound.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, that's what we are consciously going for, and sometimes you lose your way as you get, you know, outside influences and different things. But that the last EP is 2 songs. The 2 last tracks, Strange Modesty and Modem, those are actually really old songs. Strange Modesty was on our very first demo, like what we actually like did to make before we made the first record, and that was us being naive, going, yeah, we can go in the studio and knock out an album, no problem.
When you were literally kids.
Yeah, when we were literally kids. So that song was really kind of just for us a cool homage to our oldest fans and people that would appreciate that song. And but yeah, when we did those recordings, it's just all we're not going in tracking everything. Like, we're going in and just playing and doing our best. We of course are overdubbing vocals. I mean, let's be honest. But as far as the music goes, it's very just live and what happened in that moment. And we really like that, because all of our previous records were done more in the traditional, okay, you know, you do the drums and now you're gonna layer, and that's a good process too, if you know, depending on what you're going for. But there's something about, you know, playing together.
There is, and I think one of the takeaways from last year is raw and immediate. I think people are more forgiving or welcoming of things that aren't super polished or super overthought. It's all about the now. Just make shit happen.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
think
what you guys
that's
did.
like a cultural shift too. I mean, if you social media or any of the, even from a marketing perspective, I mean, I think you know, the real, tangible, not overproduced, it resonates. It's relatable.
I once I switched to doing this podcast every night, I thought, well, I don't have the time to edit each interview, edit out each awkward pause, whatever. It's just, I'm doing this on Facebook Live, and when I'm done with Facebook Live, I'm putting it into the RSS feed. And that's just the world we're living in. And now I would never I would never go back and change that.
Yeah.
I mean, just to go down this rabbit hole for one more second, I used to spend so much time editing podcasts, and I realized there's no return on that. Like, people don't give a shit. Like, for all the painstaking time you take amplifying waveforms and extracting, it doesn't matter. It does. That's not what people take away from the experience. They take away what people are talking about. What Ryan Immegart says about recording Sour to Punk or being at Volcom, whatever. Sorry, I digress.
No, man, that's a great point.
Let's go back to Hawkeye, talking about carving your own sound. This song is cool as shit. I shared it earlier today. I wanted people to hear it before this interview. It goes in a few different directions, and every time it kind of goes out one way or the other, it gets reeled back in. And what's neat about this, every instrument has its own like starring moment in the song. The bass has its moment. The drums are just monstrous, and the guitars are just there to keep everything moving forward. I think this is an epic sounding song.
Thank you. Yeah, dude, that song is broken down in those particular kind of little buckets to really, because we were trying to do something that we would enjoy. You know, at the end of the day, like, we were like, let's take the guitar out here, let's try something else here. Like, we came back and did the bridge part. You know, I sing on the bridge, and it wasn't originally there. It was more of like a guitar lead, and it ended up becoming like a little bit like, I actually played it for somebody before we put it out, and they were like, "Are you rapping?" And I'm like, "No, but that's cool. You think I am?" I'm like, "No, I'm just, you know, I'm just trying something different for me." And so it's a fun song. It's a fun song. We try to like do a lot of like Donald and I singing kind of back and forth, which is what we did a lot in our earlier records, but I don't think it was, I think it was a little more forced back then, where like this feels like more natural to us right now. And we're getting our, you know, now we're having our bass player now, who is also a really good singer. And they, by the way, my son Jonah and our bass player just put out their own band. They're in a band called Citric File, that we released on our label, because Donald and I bought all the masters back from the line from Volcom.
Good.
So we started our own label just for fun, called Immegart Records, kind of a little, you know, play on my last name. And yeah, I'm stoked. They just put a record out on January 1st. It's a really cool record. It's not anything like The Line, and I'm really happy for them. So just kind of working.
I see the pride. For people listening, you can't see just the big smile on Ryan's face as he's talking about that. I mean, how can you not be proud and excited about that? I think that's awesome. Again, the EP is Sour to Punker, and you said it earlier, there are no stakes attached like there were in the early aughts. There's no pressure. You're doing this for the love of the game now, and it's fun and it's exciting. I would imagine, based on that, onward from here. Yes, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gosh, we really want to play it live. We're excited to get out and do more shows and just really there is nothing but, I guess, excitement for sharing more of those experiences now that we appreciate them more. You know, like
Oh yeah.
we played hundreds, thousands of shows over the years in all over the world, and you know, it sucks. Like I can't remember a lot of them. Like I'll just be honest. Like I probably had too many beers, probably didn't have enough sleep. Like, you know, you look back on it and you're like Donald has like a foot, you know, he'll be like, oh yeah, that was, you know, whatever, Chicago on friggin' this date. And I'm just like, huh? So I really am trying to soak it up and enjoy it. And especially with my son and my best friend and a lot of the, you know, my family is all, you know, super supportive, and it's my wife's there, you know, shooting pictures and stuff, and you know, it's just it's really selfish for me. I'm like doing it for myself, but if people enjoy it, even better. So
That's it. That's the whole idea of creating great art. Do it because you love it, and hopefully people will get it and play along. But do it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back to Volcom, I'm assuming, you know, as the band's really revving up with the EP, and it does again sound amazing. Is winter the busy time? I would imagine for you guys.
You know, we're actually we're lucky in the fact that we are like a year-round brand as far as Volcom. You know, yes, winter is intense, and there's because we do a robust outerwear collection as well. So you know, that hits in like fourth quarter basically, and kind of otherwise, you know, on top of our apparel collection. So yeah, it's very busy. It's busy because a lot of, you know, the fall, the holiday, the outerwear is landing, but we're also like, you know, we're mainly a wholesale driven business. So a lot of our work is also selling in the next year's seasons or you know, collections. And so it's insanely busy. The last couple months we're taxing, but had a good break, and now we're looking towards, you know, it's the 30-year anniversary for Volcom. It was founded in '91, and I mean, literally, I'm so grateful for being where I am at the brand. I've gone from, you know, the team writer to now I'm one of the owners. We myself and the other partners, really, like, longer story for a different time, but long story short, we were able to put a deal together when the former parent company was selling the brand, and we little more complicated getting into like all the details. There's some stuff online if you're really interested, but yeah, it's cool because now to go through that journey and to now have real skin in the game, and to still be working with a lot of the, you know, the people that I respect and have learned from, and to be able to, you know, take that to this next chapter has been, it's incredible. So I'm very, very, very
And I know I don't want to distract from the line in the new EP, but if you are interested, if you're watching or listening, sustainability, ethical company, just great stuff. Volcom, great company to support. All right, so again, the new EP, Sour to Punker, we can stream it on Bandcamp, we can stream it anywhere, and well worth a listen. I mean, it starts, like I said, with Hawkeye, and just it keeps on going. It's awesome. Ryan Immegart, I appreciate you jumping on and doing this tonight.
My pleasure, James. Anytime, let's do it again, and thank you for having me.